今日の移籍ニュースをお伝えします。動画の中では放送後に入ってきたニュースなので入っていませんが、ドジャースにジャイアンツのブレイク、スネル選手が移籍となりました。スネル選手はサイ・ヤング賞を2度獲得した先発左腕投手で、5年1億8200万ドル、日本円で277億円での移籍だそうです。今季は4月に怪我もありましたが徐々に復調し、8月2日のレッズ戦でノーヒットノーランを達成しました。これで来季のドジャースの先発陣は大谷、山本、クラスのスネルカー賞がほぼ確定。ミラー、ゴリンソン、メイも含めるとヤバすぎる先発陣になっていますね。FA の話題の中心はソト選手で、メッツのコーエンオーナーもすでに入札を終え、会見に回答していました。来週にも動きがありそうなソト選手の FA 情報を中心に、各チームの FA 情報を翻訳してお届けします。
Juan Soto, of course, is the big ticket item this free agent shopping season, and Mets owner Steve Cohen had these thoughts on the pursuit of Juan Soto.
Well, listen, we're going to find out. It's either yes or no, right? There's no in between, and time will tell.
That's kind of the way marriage proposals work, right? It's either yes or no. Time will tell. Harold, reportedly there
I think you have a better chance when you're proposing to get married than maybe proposing the money here.
Well, if you're proposing with $500+ million, which we figure is the neighborhood that the Juan Soto offer will start at, that's definitely a good neighborhood and a good proposal.
Yeah.
Reportedly, there are 5 teams that have submitted proposals.
No mystery teams. We're not surprised by the 5.
Yeah, so this is our JP Morosi. Juan Soto has offers from 5 teams. They are the Red Sox, the Dodgers, the Mets, the Yankees, and the Blue Jays. Where do you want to start here from those 5 teams? Anyone surprise you or intrigue you more than the others?
No, I think they all have a different threshold of need that he fits. Yep. The Red Sox need another star. They do. And I think he fits great in Fenway Park. I put him in left field.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to play off the monster for defense, and he's going to hit in that park.
Yeah.
It'd be great. Then you go on. But
obviously, the New York Mets, according to some reports, depending on what you read or hear,
I think they're the front runner.
They have emerged as the early front runner, but they're still, time to be.
I'm intrigued with the Yankees. Clearly, they got to go after their player, but that's one of the reasons you make the trade, because you have a full year to convince him.
Yeah.
Hey, this is where you need to be. And on the year he had and the way he was adored in New York with the Yankees, yes, that's where he needs to be. But they didn't lock the deal up in 12 months. So I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
Why now? If you had a chance to keep him locked up and you knew he was going to go to free agency, understood, because his agent was going to take him there. But how much of it did you really sit down and go, this is the best team? We love you. This is great. And I'm sure they did all their work, and they still didn't get him. So I don't see that happening.
You don't see a reunion with Soto and the Yankees?
I don't.
What about the Los Angeles Dodgers? I almost feel like they are, if Soto goes to the Dodgers, that is, I don't even know where to begin if that happens. But you think that they can offer him something that those other 4 teams have, and it has nothing to do with the weather?
No, I think, one, they can throw the money at him, but they can also, they're in a position of, we don't need you. We want you. It'd be great. But since this last group, Mark Walters' group, has taken over, since 2012, look at the Dodgers. The one thing they can offer to Soto is we are going to win every year. And I don't know if you have a 162-game schedule out there, but I've been in a 162-game schedule where I've lost 100. I've been on teams that we've lost 89, 90. That's a long summer. With this here, they do not have a losing record.
No.
You are going to be in the postseason. You are going to win. And this machine right here is not going to stop. That, folks, is called a track record.
Yeah.
That's what this group has done.
No, that's
and they
fair.
will continue. So nobody in baseball can offer this to Soto.
Before I ask you about the Mets, I want to go to a team that was also on that list, the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah.
They were heavily involved in the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes last year,
Right.
ultimately came up empty. The Wands, it feels like they have been searching for that big white whale, so to speak.
And
Certainly Juan Soto would fit that
He would
bill.
fit, but I would have to know if I'm Soto what's going to happen with Bichette and Vlad Jr. Because you're going to give me all the money and then they leave?
True.
What are you going to do around me? You know, so I think you got to look at the peripheral of not only can you pay him, but can you sustain around him?
Yeah.
And so that's why this is all going to be very interesting. And that's where the elimination comes to what teams can really.
And both Bichette and Guerrero are free agents at the end of 2025. And lastly, the New York Mets. Let me ask you the Mets and Soto in this question here. Can they get Soto and retain Pete Alonso as well in the same
offseason? They can do what they
offseason?
want.
Okay.
I think they have the ends to do whatever they want to do.
If they are the front runner, which according to reports they are, what that means right now, who knows? But does your gut tell you they get Soto and keep Alonso? What does your gut tell you?
I think Pete played himself back into graces. I don't think they wanted Pete to come back.
Okay.
You know, David Stearns has said all the right things, but again, you had Pete there, and Pete was jumping up and down like, I'm a Met, I'm a Met, I'm a Met. You know, I'm doing everything in the community. I'm that guy. And they didn't lock him up. So to me, that's kind of like, I don't know if they really wanted him back. Pete played himself back into, you have to have me, because he had a fantastic second half of the year, postseason, homegrown, but I don't know if they want him back.
Right. Real quick, the New York Yankees, if they do not retain Soto, what is their fallback plan? And clearly, if you have $500+ million committed to one player, and that player rebuffs your offer, theoretically, you have $500 million to sprinkle around the rest of your roster.
Well, I think for the first time in years, the Yankees have flexibility to adjust their roster.
Yes.
You know, they need to change their roster. Soto is not the only answer. They fell short this year. But honestly, if Houston doesn't fade out, I think the Yankees are done. They don't get to the World Series. To me, that wasn't really the best foot forward for the Yankees. Here's some guys that you can look at filling holes.
They could certainly pivot to one or more of these players on this board.
You can sit there and go, okay, did you like the Yankees' rotation at the end of the year? They had to come up with Weaver as a guy to close for them. Maybe they found a closer in him. But they had some holes. And then offensively, you know, Gleyber, they moved into the leadoff spot. He played really well, but they're not bringing Gleyber Torres back.
No.
Third base, you had Jazz Chisholm, who isn't a third baseman, play third.
I've always thought Alex Bregman was going to end up with the New York Yankees.
Yeah.
That's just my gut.
So my point is that, and even right field, if Soto leaves, you got Santander out there.
They have options.
They have options, and it's the first time I think the Yankees, you look around and go, they're not a lock.
Yeah.
Somebody can lose their job with an upgrade. You know what,
that makes sense. And this talk of contract and high dollar value, which certainly Juan Soto, I'm sure those offers are very, very lucrative. We have seen this in the past, and the thing that we don't know about these offers from these five teams, Harold, is what perks are included.
Right.
All right, so let's take a look back at some of the perks that were included in other pursuits of free agents or star players. George Brett, he received part ownership of an apartment complex in Memphis as part of his lifetime deal with the Kansas City Royals.
That's a pretty good deal.
A.J. Burnett, when he signed with the Blue Jays, got 8 round-trip limo rides from Maryland to Toronto each season for family when he signed with the Blue Jays. That's a nice
His
little
wife did not like to fly.
Right. Alex Rodriguez, when he signed that big deal with the Texas Rangers, $150,000 bonus for winning the Division Series MVP with the Rangers. Of course, that never happened. Oh, by the way, there's never been a Division Series MVP award. They don't hand it out. But he wanted it in there just in case. And then Troy Gloss, this is true, the Diamondbacks paid for his wife's equestrian training and lessons at a stable in Arizona.
They should add the division MVP and call it the Alex Rodriguez Award just because he asked for that.
That's right. They should do that.
They should do that.
I also remember Kevin Brown back in the day. He had access to either unlimited
Southwest
plane.
Airlines.
Is that what it was, Southwest Airlines? That's great stuff. So,
so I remember Alex had to have a suite in Texas, right?
Yeah.
Had his own suite. So there's been some creative things that guys have asked for.
Time now for Leading the League. JP Morosi is back from his travels. We'll talk about that in just a second. But good morning to you, JP. We showed your tweet in our first segment about the 5 teams that have reportedly made offers to Juan Soto. There they are again: Red Sox, Dodgers, Mets, Yankees, Blue Jays. What jumps out at you? Where do you want to start, JP?
Well, good morning. Thanks for having me back on the show here now that I'm back in the States. Yes, first credit to Randy Miller of New Jersey Advanced Media for reporting that Soto has offers in hand now from 5 teams. And it's not just the number of teams, Robert and Harold, that I find interesting. It's the timing of how relatively early we are in the process. Now, we don't believe these are final offers, but at least to know where the initial stakes are is helpful. We're still about a couple weeks away here from the winter meetings, and that gives Juan Soto, Scott Boras, and these teams plenty of time to work through things and potentially sign even before the winter meetings happen. I still think there's a real possibility it occurs in the early days of the meetings, but you can see how sequentially this is all lining up, because when Soto makes his decision, there will be a domino effect about other teams that have made these big investments. Let's say, for example, the Boston Red Sox, who I think are probably well after the Mets and Yankees in the hierarchy of teams with a chance to get him. If they don't get Soto, the Red Sox could very easily pivot and sign a Corbin Burns. Maybe they pursue a Blake Snell, who also both happen to be represented by Scott Boras. So
right.
the names of the teams I find interesting. The Dodgers, I want to make this point on them. There's been all this talk about could they add one more superstar? Well, effectively, Ohtani is theirs for free in terms of how much money they're actually paying him, given all the deferment. So they have the capacity to get Soto. I am of the mind that the team that gets Soto will be the most desperate to get Soto. The Dodgers are not a desperate team.
No, that's a very good point. My question, JP, off of this is, okay, the offers are in. How do, if JP, Harold, and Roflo have offers in, how do we know what the other offer is? And I say, I'm out. Okay? Right. When's that process going to happen? Because at some point, you got to be able to say, I'm sorry, but Robert came in 5 years and offered him $500 million.
Yeah.
And I go, well, that's never mind. I'm out.
Right. Well, the irony here, and this is my prediction on the 26th of November, that the teams that are also on there in the market for Anthony Santander or Teoscar Hernandez, they're probably willing to wait a little bit longer on the Soto situation to let it play out. I do think a team like the Blue Jays, if they get the sense that he is going to go to one of the New York teams.
No, I get all that, but I'm wondering, how do you find out? I mean, does Boras say, hey, here's what's on the table? Or does he just hold it? Does he sit there and play a hide and seek game with you?
Right. No, and I think in a lot of ways, Harold, I would be surprised. And obviously there are the ethics and relationships that prevail in a negotiation such as this, a high stakes negotiation, by the way, where the full industry expectation is that number is going to be over $500 million. What's $500 million among friends, to where there's going to be at least some conversation where, and you have to, as a GM, sense how real your chance is. And again, the reason why I mentioned the Blue Jays is this: if they get the sense that they are not even the favorite or the second favorite, it would behoove the Jays to almost pull out and then strike the deal with Santander before the other runners up do the same thing. And to then, I think that honestly, the better poker game is between these teams we're talking about and the agent for Santander and the agent for Teoscar. Because those players are not represented by Boras. That's where it gets interesting. With respect to Boras, what makes such a unique offseason is that in terms of the other big dollar guys, I mentioned Burns, I mentioned Snell, they're also represented by Boras. And so he has more information. Scott Boras right now on the 26th of November has more information than probably anybody else in the entire industry about the willingness to spend not just for Soto, but for high-end pitching as well.
So
information.
I want to go off script for 1 second again. We talked about this a lot yesterday, Robert and I. How are we getting to 500? Because I want to know how we got here. Because if Bryce Harper's 360, 350, whatever, Manny Machado is 350, 360, and there's 26 years old. Shohei Ohtani got to 700 because he's a Cy Young pitcher and an MVP hitter, and he's 7. Soto doesn't pitch. And I know he's the same age, but he's doubling Harper and Machado? How do we get here?
Well, Harold, it's a great question, and the answer I'll give you is this. If you consider year over year and the increase of what you're paying for superstar players, and you're right, Shohei, even though it's deferred money, stretched at least the nominal number for what a per year basis could possibly be in the history of the game. If you look at what Aaron Judge got, and then you potentially move up the AAV from Judge's contract and maybe take it a little bit higher for Soto, not because I'm not saying one's a better player than the other, but we're now a few years on in terms of inflation, growth in the industry, etc. Soto is a substantially younger player than Aaron Judge. And so even if you took Judge's contract and then plotted it out over 4 or 5 more years, because Soto is that much younger than Aaron was when he hit free agency, that's how you get above $500 million, because that's, you look at where Aaron's deal was and then you plot it forward with the AAV and more years. It has to do, Harold, with the age that Juan Soto is right now. That is why there are so many teams, including the very judicious Los Angeles Dodgers, why they're involved here as well.
JP, let's try to motor through the rest of these topics here. You were obviously overseas covering the Premier 12 baseball tournament, and there was an upset in the final. Chinese Taipei defeating the favorite, Japan, in the final.
One of the greatest achievements in the athletic history of Taiwan. And you got the sense watching it all unfold just what it meant to the players in 2017. And here was the hotel yesterday. I was just getting ready to leave myself from Japan.
You know you're up there in that line waving that flag. I see
Waving
you
the
over
Taiwanese flag, watching the bus depart. The tears we saw on the field, on the faces of the players, Harold and Robert, was something I will never, ever forget. Nor will I forget this soundbite with Arizona Diamondbacks pitching prospect Yu-Min Lin, who held mighty Samurai Japan to 0 runs on 1 hit. And here's what Yu-Min Lin told me on the field after the game.
It's pretty amazing. Like, we haven't get anyone world champion before, so it's pretty huge for Taiwan. And I think for every other player too, like they so like can't believe this thing just happened, and we're so happy, so excited. Yeah, I really want to just take my phone now and call the FaceTime, call my teammate, say, bro, we just get it, go champion, bro. I want to show everything I want to show, yeah. Not just USA, Taiwan can do it too. I mean, I just do everything I'm learning from practice and just show everything my best on again. And I trust my teammate, I trust my catcher, and I trust my coach too. And I just do my, like usually normal thing I do, and just do that again. And just stay 4 innings, no run, 1 hit.
A baseball clubhouse is a beautiful place to learn the English language, first and foremost.
Yeah.
But I love the enthusiasm.
All
of
the words in the English language.
He's got great command of the language, got great command of baseball English. And by the way, he is going to be in the major leagues in 2025. You can bookmark that. To go into that ballpark, you're facing the #1 ranked team in the world, and you shut them down. He would have already been in the major leagues this year had he not been hit in the face with a foul ball in the dugout in the minor leagues. He's that good of a pitcher.
Wow,
so
that's what
he's
happened.
got the
Wow.
belief, and you could tell the commentary that he just had there, guys. The Taiwanese baseball community, the entire country now has this renewed sense of what is possible. When you go in there and beat Samurai Japan in front of 50,000 fans, it's a landmark.
Hey, what's he featured, JP? What's he throw?
He throws basically 3 or 4 pitches. He has what they call now, Harold, the vertical ride fastball. He's got a fastball that plays up because of the spin rate. We talk about that a lot now in the game. A really good sweeper. He's got a feel for, it's almost like a change split as well. He's a really good pitcher. And you talk about why we love the international game and the way in which you're tested. Yeah, AA tests you, AAA tests you. But 50,000 fans in that ballpark test you in a way that nothing in the minor leagues will ever test you, which is why having your players play winter ball at international tournaments like this is so great for their development overall.
Hey, we'll get you out of here on this one real quick, JP. The report is that the Phillies are open to shaking up the roster. What do you know?
They are. I think that's a really interesting point here, and Bob Nightingale's been reporting on this, as has Matt Gelb with The Athletic, that they're interested in pursuing Willy Adames or Alex Bregman. And what this says to me is that Alec Boehm is available on the trade market. Now, there have been a lot of other conversations about other pieces they could potentially move. Nick Castellanos' name has come up. I had somebody mention to me Ranger Suarez as well. But when they're pursuing Adames and Bregman directly, that is telling me that Alec Boehm is available, which certainly concurs with a lot of things I've been hearing in recent days. So don't be surprised, my friends, if when we are at the winter meetings in a couple weeks' time, we hear of a trade involving Alec Boehm.
Where would you put Willy Adames if you got Trey Turner for $300 million?
Third, more than likely. I think that becomes a position where and we've been hearing this a lot, Harold, that Adames is willing to play a different position. He's actually been willing, I'm told, you think about the Houston Astros, ironically Bregman's old team, the Astros also have interest in Adames. And you could put Adames at third, Pena at short, Altuve at first. Adames is a very versatile player who was willing to move off of shortstop for the right deal and the right team. And we have seen it before. This man can drive in 100 runs. He's done it before. He did it this year. And it's very rare you've got a shortstop, an infield bat really of any position with the exception of first base, that can produce runs at that rate and also be an elite base runner and an elite glove. I don't think, and I'll make this clear, I would be stunned if there was anything involving Trey Turner. There's the Turner-Bryce Harper connection. Trey Turner's going nowhere.
Yeah,
so
I wasn't suggesting that at all.
If they're getting Adames is playing third base, and he would be a dynamic third baseman in Philadelphia.
Well, JP, we appreciate the time. Glad you made it safely back from your travels. Enjoy the week, and we'll talk to you soon. Yes, muchos thank yous and muchos hello as we give you another edition of The Pen is Maitia Trebek. Anthony Castrovins, one of our good friends and favorite writers at MLB.com. He joins us now here. Anthony, I believe you've got a new article up on the website. It's called Black Friday Blockbuster Deals. It will come out on Friday, excuse me. So we're going to, we don't want to spoil the entire article because we want people to go to the website. But let's go with a couple here. You have a blockbuster deal involving the Cubs and the Blue Jays. Give it to us.
Well, first of all, let's be clear. This article spoils itself. This is, this is your dinner table conversation at Thanksgiving and your annual opportunity to tell me I don't know what I'm doing. I know I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. I'm not a GM. I'm just a guy.
And you know what? Baseball is a safe topic at the Thanksgiving dinner table. Let's just keep it at baseball.
One of the few. All right, so let's do something here with the Cubs and Blue Jays. Let's trade Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I don't know what either of these clubs are doing. To be very clear, I have no idea what either of these clubs are doing. The Blue Jays are in there for Juan Soto. I'll believe that when it actually happens. If they don't get Soto, it would stand to reason they should extend Guerrero, but he's 26 years old, just like Soto, and very close to free agency, tantalizingly close. So I think they might be better off. It hasn't really worked out with that core. Let's blow it up. Let's send Guerrero to the Cubs and Kevin Gausman. We bring back a long-term piece in Michael Busch, and we take on some Cody Bellinger. I think the Cubs would probably have to eat some of that Bellinger deal in this scenario. Yeah. And you get a top prospect in Cade Horton, one of the top pitching prospects. So, you know, again, with Guerrero, I mean, he really took off in the second half this year. We saw the guy we've long expected him to be and hadn't seen, outside of the Dunedin/Toronto season where he's runner-up for MVP. He showed that, this year. So, I don't know. Again, you get this close to free agency, it's hard to imagine he won't explore that.
And Anthony, let me ask you real No, I'm sorry to interrupt real quick. If this, and this is pure speculation, but if a deal like this happened, do you think that the Blue Jays would then pivot to discuss a long-term deal with Dante Bichette?
With Bo Bichette.
Bo Bichette, excuse me, Bo Bichette.
Yeah,
it would be silly for them to explore a deal with Dante Bichette at this age of his career.
Might as well. No, I don't know. I think with Bichette, like looking Bichette versus Guerrero, it's always been more likely they extend Guerrero than Bichette, is what I've been told. Now, if you trade Guerrero, obviously that's not the case. And maybe then it does. Bichette's such an interesting case because obviously he had a down year, injured year.
Yeah.
You'd be buying low, I guess, in that regard. So it's hard to say. But I just think in general, like there's kind of, I don't know. I'm feeling disillusioned as a guy who was in the tank for the Blue Jays for a long time until the bitter end there. They haven't made it work with that group for whatever reason. They've had, they haven't advanced in October when they've gotten there. Yeah. And then last year they finished in 5th place. So I think it's time for a sea change. I really do. And I know it's hard to part with Guerrero, but you might be losing Guerrero, this time next year anyway. What I was going to say earlier, Craig Counsell made an interesting remark towards the end of the season. He said, we got to start building 90-plus win teams around here. With the Cubs, it's not just that mindset of trying to win a wild card or try to be just over 500. We need to build elite teams here. They have the ability to do that. They have the financial ability to do it.
Yes, they do.
If they did make a trade like this, they could absolutely be a player for Guerrero long term.
Let's talk about a deal involving a couple of socks, the red and the white.
Yeah, I love swapping socks. So let's do that. Now, the Red Sox are a really good candidate to land Garrett Crochet.
It's a lot.
Strong farm system. It's what they need. Yeah, it's funny you say that, Harold, because when I was looking at this again this morning, I'm like, did I overdo it here? I'm not sure. But this does protect the Red Sox absolute upper tier prospects. These are 3 of their top 10, but it protects their big dogs that they don't want to trade. But it does move Tristan Casas, and that's interesting for the White Sox because all these trades I'm proposing are, involve big leaguers going both ways. In this case, Casas is 24 years old. He's young enough that he would make sense for the White Sox, even a rebuilding club like the White Sox. And, he was injured this past year. He's got potential 40-homer ability. So, he'd be a great trade chip should the Red Sox go down that road. And, if they want to move Rafael Devers to first base or just go short-term at first base and then maybe think about moving Devers there, down the road, whatever. The point is, they need an elite arm in that rotation. They could sign one. They could trade for one. They could sign one and trade for one. So here's an opportunity to trade for one.
My only question for the White Sox would be, did I get enough major leaguers? Are the other 3 guys ready? I'm not giving up Crochet and then I'm building with minor league players. I got to have guys that are major league ready. I'm not saying a minor leaguer can't be major league ready, but they got to come play for me in the big leagues. Just a thought.
Well, Casas is obviously ready, and I think that, when you set the modern loss record, it's going to be a while. So I know, you want the win now pieces, but they got to be thinking, I don't know, 3-4 years out at least with the way things look there, unfortunately.
Anthony, you've got a 3-team deal for your next
I want to hear this.
Black Friday blockbuster deal. Give us the details.
All right, so if the Cardinals are going to move Nolan Arenado, and they're obviously exploring that, if the Phillies are going to move Alec Bohm, and that's something that has been widely reported that they're open to that, well, how about sending Nolan Arenado to Philly? But that doesn't really make sense to send Bohm back to St. Louis because I think they're just trying to get younger. And, Bohm's young-ish. He's 28, under control for another couple years, but it doesn't seem like a perfect fit for them. So let's get the Mariners involved. Boy, do they need help at the hot corner, and Alec Bohm could provide it. So I got a lot of moving parts here. There's a lot of money involved with the Nolan Arenado deal. He's still owed $74 million through 2027. The Rockies are eating $10 million of that still. I don't know what the dollars. We're going to make a change there at third base. I think that's a place where, for one, he'll just fit in with the whole, 30-something vibe they have going on here in their lineup. But also, I think that's a place where he could have a resurgence in his career. He's got that pull power, and that would play up in Citizens Bank Park. So I'd like to see it. Now you also have reporting that Arenado's open to moving positions. Going over to first base, be it part-time or full-time. In that scenario, obviously the Phillies have a pretty good first baseman in Bryce Harper, so that would kind of not be a factor in this particular deal I'm proposing, but it does open the floor to more Arenado trade possibilities, other teams that could be involved. So he'll be a fascinating trade candidate for sure.
Okay.
What do you think, H?
Okay. Well, my first thought is, what I keep hearing all these guys talking about they want to move positions. Sorry. Willie Adames, you're going to be a shortstop. Nolan Arenado, you're a Gold Glove, Silver Glove third baseman. You're not moving to first. You know, I keep hearing people throwing this stuff out there all the time. It's like, pump the brakes on that. Now, other than that, that was my little 2 cents out of that. Seattle's got to get a little bit more, right? Giving up some stuff.
Well, I had them giving up their third prospect, and Emerson Hancock, who's, you know, he's a good depth piece. I don't know, you know, overwhelming trade value for those two pieces. I don't know. This is all beauty in the eye of the beholder.
I want to see your
Bohm.
watercolors
You got
at home. You just,
2 years
man,
of Bohm.
it's creative stuff you got going.
These are all
Actually, if
written in
you sit down and really
These are
look
written in
at
crayon,
it,
Harold.
if you sit down and really look at it and I quit talking over you, it really makes sense. It's
Well,
good.
you know, once in a while I run into one, but mostly these are aimed at upsetting as many people as possible in one trade. So I'm getting 3 fan bases equally upset with me. That's the goal.
There you go. That's
You know,
it.
today, I got one last question for you before we let you go. Today seems to be Cody Bellinger's name's in everything. Why are we trying to move Cody Bellinger? Why are the Cubs trying to do that?
I don't know the Cubs' intentions. The Cubs need like some serious star power in the middle of that lineup. I don't know if you get that in a Cody Bellinger trade. I obviously proposed something where you're also moving a Bush, and you know it's complicated. But generally speaking, Harold, I'm with you. Like I'm not big on selling low on players that talented. You know, a year ago,
Agreed.
this guy was coming off a terrific season for the Cubs, and you know they made that deal for a reason. But they do have positional flexibility there, and you know they can move some things around. And again, we'll see what it looks like come March. But I'm really curious about the Cubs because I don't think they're exploring the full financial muscle they have there. And I did think Craig Counsell's comments towards the end of the season were pretty pointed.
動画の中でも諸氏が言及していましたが、やはりこうして振り返ると、大谷選手の契約は実質無料だったというのも納得ですね。日本からのスポンサー、観光客、そして観客数の増加など、与える影響は計り知れませんし、チーム運営にも大きな恩恵をもたらしていますね。スネル選手を獲得し、来季をさらに確実なものとしたドジャースですが、他のチームとは違う価値の勝てることへ外選手がどこまで感じるか注目ですね。もちろんテオスカー・ヘルナンデス選手の残留もファンとしては望む声も多いですが、改めてこれで外選手までドジャースに来たらえげつなさすぎる打線が完成するのではないでしょうか。大谷選手も投手として復帰することを皆が望んでいますが、もし次に右肘に問題が起きた場合、投手は終わりと本人が宣言しています。そうなると外野守備に大谷選手を回し、外選手を DH に据える選択肢もドジャースにはあると考えると、外選手との契約は前向きな意見なのかもしれないと思えてきますよね。ウィンターミーティングまでには決まりそうだという情報も出ていますので、今後の動向を見守っていきましょう。それでは次回の動画でお会いしましょう。さようなら。